Thorn is a reprised exotic from Destiny 1, now in Destiny 2 with the Season of the Drifter. Datto has a video on how to get the weapon, and a link to that video is in the description. The intrinsic perk, Mark the Devourer, causes the rounds to pierce targets and deal damage over time. Kills with the weapon leave behind remnants. The Soul Devourer perk causes the weapon to get buffed and partially refill the magazine whenever you pick up a remnant. So, what are remnants? Whenever you get a kill with Thorn, your target will drop a hive-looking orb that floats above their body. That orb is the Remnant. The orb will last for about 7 seconds on the ground. During that time, you can run over it to put 4 shots into your magazine and gain the Soul Devourer buff. Picking up more orbs will refill your magazine, but cannot overfill it. The Remnant orb can only be picked up by you. If other people have a Thorn of their own, they can only see and pick up their orbs. The Soul Devourer buff lasts 6 seconds, but can be extended to 10 seconds by picking up more orbs. The buff does not increase the direct damage of bullets like Rampage or Kill Clip. Instead, it increases the damage of the damage over time effect. The Mark of the Devourer damage over time effect is very similar to the one that was on Thorn at the end of D1. Each shot will apply the effect, allowing it to stack up on your targets. The effect will tick for 4 times during its duration, so you'll really only be able to keep about 5 stacks of the buff on a target at a given time. Thorn genuinely surprised me with its PvE performance. I went in expecting something similar to the end of D1 where you could stack up the dot and that's about it, but the remnant mechanic on this gun lends itself so well to the weapon. The one thing that I didn't like was the slow reload speed, and since picking up remnants fills up part of the magazine, I could negate the one thing that I wasn't really enjoying. You're able to just mow through large groups of whatever without reloading, all while making your targets take even more damage from the dot effect. You don't even have to swap weapons to take out shielded enemies. The dot effect is powerful enough to chew through most of those, since the Soul Devourer buffs that damage over time effect by 200%. So, what's bad about the gun? Honestly, the only thing I can say about it is that it's an exotic, so you don't get masterwork orbs from all the slaying that you'll be doing. I can be a little bit more nitpicky and say that the reload is too slow, but with a pair of reload gloves, that's easily remedied. The sights also take a little bit to get used to. In D1, it was a really clean dot sight, but in D2, it has a little wavy looking hive symbol that can kind of get hidden by the recoil. In PvE, this is just a solid weapon to use. I still think the Ace of Spades is better for PvE, but that's a little bit unfair to judge something like Thorn against a gun that has 13 different perks. In D1, if I saw someone using Thorn in PvE, I would probably question their choices a little bit. But in D2, I can totally see people using this as their exotic. The Remnant mechanic makes it an incredibly versatile weapon in terms of where you can use it. Normally, I swap to a secondary weapon to chunk away health from beefier enemies, but Thorn can do that at a competent level. I didn't even talk about the over-penetrating shots that much. It isn't Firefly for ad clear, but it's still really good when dealing with enemies that are tightly packed together. When you have the buff up, every target hit by that over-penetrating round will have that dot ticking on them as well. In PvP, Thorn is a solid choice among many. Without the Soul Devourer buff active, it still performs at top hand cannon level. The damage over time effect will deal 8 damage total per stack, ticking for 2 damage each tick. This gives each precision shot 76 damage total, allowing you to kill in 2 precision and 1 body shot. With the buff active, the damage goes up to 96 on a precision shot when you include the dot. So assuming your target isn't running extremely high resilience, you will 2-tap most people. That is the thing that sets this gun apart from the many wonderful hand cannon choices in the game. A small caveat though, if you use a controller, I still think 180 hand cannons are going to be your best choice. Their overall consistency is just too great to ignore. Thorn's recoil with a controller is jumpy, but almost perfectly vertical. So countering it isn't that big of a deal. Things are only going to get difficult when you start spamming shots, and it gets a little bit hard to see with that recoil pattern. Since 180s just lend themselves so well to spamming shots, I'd keep using those. The damage over time effect is something that you're going to have to get used to. Once you know your target will die, you have the choice to fire another shot and stay in the engagement, or try and just get into cover and let them burn out. This really only comes into play when you have the buff active though. Since movement and time to kill are so fast, there's a good chance that waiting for someone to burn out from that dot will probably just cause you to die if you stay in the engagement. Learning how to go about using remnants is going to be the hard thing for this gun. In PvE, you just run over them at every chance you get almost. In PvP, you have a bit of time to get to them, and running over to someone might not be the best strat. Fortunately, if you get close to the orb, it will auto-track to you, so learning to push up and letting that buff just come to you is going to be a good skill to learn quick. The orb also has the benefit of giving you just enough ammo to kill 2 people, assuming you hit those crits. In the landscape of good PvP hand cannons though, is Thorn able to compete? It can definitely stand on its own, and with the buff active, it's probably the best in the game. But other weapons like Luna and Not Forgotten don't need to get a kill to be insane. That gun just has a beastly neutral play. Ace of Spades, in a similar vein, doesn't really need to get a kill because it's stacked with insane stats and perks that feel geared towards PvP neutral gameplay. So that's kind of what you're sacrificing with Thorn. You have a neutral game that's probably the worst of the S tier PvP hand cannons, but it makes up for it by having one of the highest spikes in power. And that about does it for this review. Hope you found it helpful. If you did, a positive rating would be appreciated. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.